Well, the Super Bowl is the holy grail for football fans, and it's also a huge boost for the economy, with companies raking in profits on everything from team apparel to chicken wings.
Yeah, big parties happening. According to early projections from CBS, it's estimated that Americans spent more than $17 billion as a result of the game, meaning many of you have probably broken your budget on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, joining us now with steps you can take to help your bank account bounce back is Dan Casey with Bridge River Advisors. Dan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we know a lot of people have annual parties, and it seems like they get bigger and bigger, especially if you keep hosting them. Before you know it, you can spend quite a bit.
Yes, and you have a tradition on your hands. You got to do it every single year. Yeah, so the costs just keep getting, and I also read an interesting statistic, it's the second largest food bill of the year. Obviously, Thanksgiving being the number one.
Wow.
Second, yeah. So it's a lot of money.
Okay. So if you're in that kind of situation, how do you even start the process of, making sure he doesn't go too crazy with the budget?
Right.
I don't know. It's a good question. So probably like with everything in my world, it's a budget, right? So set a budget and try not to go over it. And if you do, well, then maybe you need to have a few less trips to Amazon website or Starbucks and save it back up.
I feel like there's big things we budget for, big events, but I feel like those parties, Super Bowl parties, those aren't things that we think to budget for. Do you think, especially with the way things are, like grocery bills are growing, things are costing more, should we be budgeting these maybe things that seem smaller in our lives but are becoming bigger expenses?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it is getting, the food bills, you can see it just with inflation alone, right? So maybe starting in December to start saving up for it or start buying some of those food supplies so your party's not such a shocker on your budget.
Yeah, I went to a very nice party myself last night, and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is quite a bit. Thank you to Tracy and Kevin. But if you are those people who maybe overspent or you had more people than you expected, how do you start the process of getting back on track?
So probably revisiting the budget again, which is not a fun topic to do, but revisiting that, maybe cutting back on some of those excess costs again, like that we've discussed before, and just kind of curbing that budget back. Maybe even, this is kind of last resort, but any of your savings plans that you have, maybe scaling back just temporarily, so you can boost up your emergency savings and your slush fund, and then go back to saving for sure. And then get smarter. No, and then get smarter next time, to your question before, and start budgeting a little bit early so you don't have to do those drastic measures.
But how do you know when to dip into your savings in those other accounts? You know, when you see your credit card bill climbing, you've got this other money here. How do you make that call of when to move money over?
That's a good question. So, and again, it all goes back to, sorry, I keep repeating myself, but having that budget. And if you temporarily need to go above that budget, well then, all right, it's a temporary thing, tap in your savings, replenish it in the future, months or whatever. But I think just having that set plan and knowing that this is just a one-time thing. If you feel like you keep running up your credit card bills, well then, apparently we've got an income expense issue that we need to revisit. And we'll say a lot of times with my clients, what I'll do is if they do have that issue, setting up that automatic withdrawal from their account so they don't even see it. I just zap it out before they can even spend it, and then I can invest it for them and save it for them.
The holidays seem to just kick off months and months of spending. Start with Thanksgiving, going to Christmas. Next thing you know, we got Valentine's Day coming up. So if you're not budgeting, is it easy to kind of lose track of how much cash you're shelling out?
Yes, absolutely. So, and this is kind of, I think, where people are really starting to think about money because they're getting their 1099s in, they're getting their, and they're starting to think about taxes and preparing in taxes. And so this is kind of like, and maybe that's the way it was designed, but when you do all that spending from Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then now we here are in tax time, we have to start budgeting and looking at where you're spending your money. So it's a good time to kind of do a recap of all your spending and where it's going.
Okay, and for people who maybe are looking at their bank accounts and realizing that, maybe I have a little bit of an issue here, I'm not spending money properly, what's kind of a first step you give people who want to retake control of their finances?
So having a detailed plan of where all your money's going, I think that's the biggest thing, because if you think about it, if you don't do that and you go back and look at your checking account, it's surprisingly where your money goes and you have no idea. So I think just knowing where it's all going and knowing that you can curb different things. Again, I don't mean to keep picking on Starbucks, but making your own coffee, and we could do it all pretty much like Starbucks, and save some money and do it at home instead.
All right, Dan Casey with Bridge River Advisors, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.